Hello, and welcome to Pravi's Wheelhouse. Today, I'm going to be playing uh, the Stanley Parable. I've heard a lot of things about this. Not any real details, just that it was extremely interesting, extremely weird, and it was an amazing game. But I've never heard much more beyond that. So I'm going to be playing it, and it says right up top, you are playing the Stanley Parable. And it has the same computer screen I'm looking at on the computer screen in the game, and the computer screen in the game has the computer screen in the game onward into infinity. So that's kind of interesting so far. I have no idea what this game's going to be like. I'm using my mouse and keyboard to do this. Now I have to pay 5 cents to Jim Sterling for saying that particular phrase because he's trademarked it. And yes, anyways, we will carry on. Let's let's dive in. Is never the end is never the end. The end is never the end is never the end is never the Okay, that's interesting. Just loading it up. I've heard amazing things, and there's apparently another game that's like a spiritual successor to this, or maybe a direct successor or sequel called The Beginner's Guide. I have no idea. I've heard about that. People are saying Matt Lees. He ended up talking about it, but not really saying anything, other than to say anything would be to ruin the game for anybody else. So that kind of piqued my interest there. And I knew about the Stanley Parable. I've had it on my computer for a while now. I just haven't played it. Oh,
This
click
is the
this.
story of a man named Stanley.
Okay.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Okay.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-ending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Okay. What's going on? No one's in here. Hello? Is anybody home?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Interesting. This is kind of, instead of telling you
No
where
matter
to,
how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
they're delivering the story through narration that's dependent on what you do. Okay. over here.
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
Okay, alright, I get it. They're using your expectations against you. No, I don't care.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh. Okay, so it's either you follow what he's saying or you don't. The meeting room.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
The future was yesterday, tomorrow is now. Tomorrow, complete today's unfinished agenda items. Write next day's agendas. Refleet. Using slides. Everyone is unique, you most of all. Oh, number of slides on this slide. What? Okay, that's weird. Broom closet. It opened.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I could walk downstairs. Bathroom.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Okay. Okay, this is interesting so far. I'm because my mind is going, what would have happened if I had went right? What would have happened if I had went downstairs?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Escape? Mind control facility. Okay, so I'm going to go this way.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
What? What? Oh, come on. You no.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
um yeah, oh god. Yeah, now I'm
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
hmm. I'm this is this is a really messed up game. This is messing with my head a bit because yeah, okay. I'm going to go back. Yeah, that's messing with my head a lot.
But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for.
Okay. Mind control facility.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Wow. Oh.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Hmm.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Yes.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His
Pirate?
own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Probably.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad, or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
What's up here?
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Okay.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Okay. Achievement unlocked. I beat the game. Okay. All right. Not a very long game. But, I wonder. I wonder. Let's see now. Oh, I'm back here again.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yes. 4.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference. Nor Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office, because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I didn't go to the meeting room. I skipped that. I'm going through the door on the right.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
What? If you are lying right now, stop. Penalty for misuse of cargo lift will cause death. Penalty for jumping off the cargo lift, $5,000. Okay. There's a door over here. Nope.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
For who? Her?
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Who's her? Okay, this is getting weird.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
What the hell? Okay. This is getting surreal.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
What? Press F on your keyboard?
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Press Y.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Please press F. No, I'm not going to press F. Nope. I'll press Q. Or L. Or J. Or click. Nope. Not going to do it. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. No. No, 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 no. I refuse. No. You're gonna just not do anything, aren't you, game? Oh, you you're not gonna do anything unless I press F, aren't you? Oh, this is cunning. This is very, very, very clever.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Press B to watch TV.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Press Z to spend time with the boys.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Press E to prepare dinner.
As he wandered through this fantasy world,
The
he
hell?
began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Press M to tell your kids a story.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Press M to tell your wife you love her. Okay.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Press Z to go to sleep.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Press P to be at work in the morning. Let me guess, I have to press P. Yep.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Press E to question nothing.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Okay, so you press any button, and it loads back up. This is getting... yeah, okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
The meeting room.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Take it out passive aggressively. Resent coworkers. Alright.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Nope.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of the world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal.
Okay.
I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
All right.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Okay.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
All right. This has to be one of the most bizarre games I have ever played. I mean, seriously bizarre. I wonder. F, Y, P, escape. The game is now paused. Okay, I'm gonna do one more thing.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Okay. I
Feeling
don't
soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
I don't know what to say. That is just wow. That it is I don't know what to say about this. It is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Well, we'll see if
The
that's
door
true.
behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At
Yep.
this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Okay. So that was the truth.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Uh-oh.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Okay.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Okay. That's what?
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Office layout. This blueprint shows the office from beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the two doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development, though the core remains almost identical to the first iteration. Okay. The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. This corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the two doors in a good time. The set of two doors was the very first concrete piece of the Stanley Parable's design. Once this room was created, the rest of the game emerged as an extension of it, an exploration of the contradiction this room posed. Hmm. The Office. 010203. This is bizarre. Like, seriously bizarre. Filing cabinets. Office computers. What? Oh, they're gonna power back on. Okay. What's this? Button sounds. Is a mix of a keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. The credits. Okay. The office. The maintenance room. Larger. The point of the Stanley Parable is to lose. The point of the Stanley Parable is to win. These are screenshots of the Stanley Parable. More endings, fewer endings, more narrators, fewer narrators, more Stanley, less Stanley. Am I going crazy? Maybe it's the same image. Was that clock there before? I don't remember. How do I go back? Can you check for me? Green light. Series of cryptic photos. Warzone. What? We designed an ending where Stanley would end up on the battlefield fighting aliens. The action would become the action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. We realized shortly after starting to build it that it was far too jokey and on the nose. Plus, some people interpret it as making fun of people who like shooters. Wow. Narrator emails. After the second trailer, we asked people to email the narrator for questions. Are you a rock? Okay. The lounge. The apartment timer. In a previous version of the choice leading to the apartment ending, a timer would give you 15 seconds. Not picking up the phone would lead to a different ending. The cargo lift was always intended to offer the choice of staying on or jumping to a different path. However, after this early version, we decided we also wanted the option of the player falling to their death. It's functionally the same as the first, but wanted to look more like a place where cargo was actually stored. This is bizarre. Like, absolutely bizarre. The escape menu. For a long time, we had an ending that only ended when the player restarted from the escape menu. Unfortunately, very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do. Zending levers? Part of the Zending. The player would pull a lever and the narrator would describe what color lever they had pulled. A screenshot depicts an early version of the era ending known as the Zending, which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the game. This is bizarre. Trailers. Broken rooms. That he's preparing a new version. Weird. Meeting room. Okay. Option 1. First choice, obey, disobey. 2 options. There's a vent. 1 option. 1 doorway to maintenance in the lounge. The original back on track option. The vent. What about this? The flow of hallways. Following the flow of hallways. Players will replay them. We discussed simplest version 1 out. Okay. This is serious. Oh God. Stanley's office. From left to right. The evolution of Stanley's office over time. Huh. Game design mock-up. Okay. What's down here? The countdown room. Monitor room. With freedom above and countdown below. We abandon this. The freedom ending. What? One of the desks. Oh, that was down there. That's the exit.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you.
Quit. Okay. Quit. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I've done what I'm supposed to do or not because I just quit the game. Uh, hmm. Let's try I'm going to start it back up here. I want to just see something. Hopefully this will be okay. We're here. We're back in the game again. Click, click. Begin the game. Okay. Because, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Click,
This is the story of
click to skip. I've skipped.
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Hmm. Hmm.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Did he now? Hmm. I don't know. Yeah. We'll do this. Go around. Into the meeting room.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Sweet FA.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused. You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Yep.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. If he knew that the combo was 2845, it would be another story entirely. But no, this is what he was going to do instead. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Okay. I'm gonna try something here.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him?
Yeah.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
Do-do.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Yep.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Dum 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 dum.
Now the monitors jumped to life,
Fired.
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
$427. Or is it 472? I don't know. I think it's 427.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
100, 300, pirate. I still like the one that says pirate.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Maybe.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
What is this one? Why is there 4 up there? What is this? One, two. Console disabled. Okay. Some weird stuff. Can I walk down there? I can. Oh, what is this? That's it. I got 1, 2, 3. Okay. Alright. What does this do? Okay, good.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? One soul? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first. so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me,
Oh my
I will be
God.
laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Wow. That's messed up. That is severely messed up. Huh. Okay. Well, that was that was the Stanley Parable, and that has got to be the most bizarre game I have ever played in my life. Seriously, the most bizarre. I may play it again simply because I'm interested in checking out all the endings. But yeah, that is severely strange. I adore how the creators of the game are not only messing with you, but doing so through your own expectations of the game. Like you figure, oh, I can just run through and punch in the code and be on my way. But when you do that, the narrator chides you for trying to rush through it. It's really quite interesting. So yeah, I'm going to leave it here, and thank you all for watching. And I hope I've been in enjoying. I hope you've been enjoying what's been going on here with the Stanley Parable. And until next time, keep playing games.